All right, it's time for me to stop talking so much just to you guys because I have to bring on the legendary, the epic DJ Alan White. Thank you so much for joining me today, Alan. It's about time we got a chance to collaborate on something just person to person here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Great to see you.
Yes, indeed.
You didn't do Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Oh,
because it was too obvious?
Yes! I know. That's all anybody's been posting about for days.
Can I say something about Backstreet?
Yes.
Backstreet was looked at from the disco era forward, when Angelo Solar was there. I'm supposed to look at the camera.
Yes.
As one of the clubs that DJs everywhere in the world looked at to find out what the next big hits were. And when they closed it, it was brutal.
It was.
Yeah, it was awful.
So sad, and we miss it greatly, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the whole music world misses it.
Mm-hmm.
There are 10 clubs maybe they looked at, maybe not even that many. One in New York, one in Chicago, L.A., Backstreet, couple in Europe. And that's how they figure out what the hits are going to be. Well, they could ask me.
I was going to say, or
I'd be happy to know.
I was going to say.
I always know.
When we're talking about people that know something about the music industry, this man knows his way through the music industry. Now, I've had the fortune of knowing you for several years now at this point. I mean,
Side Door, probably 7, 8 years now.
Yeah, give or take, about 7 or 8 years. And we've worked together on a few projects here and there. And it's always been a pleasure. I love being around somebody that's so experienced. And I
love being around pretty girls, so it works out for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a 50-50 kind of thing there.
Look at this.
But I want to say you didn't start as a DJ. As a teenager, you actually started out by performing in bands.
Started out when I was 15 with a teenage nightclub called the Bop Shop in my basement. we took a riser of some kind, and we put my drums up on a riser. We put a record player next to it. And not all record players were those little tiny pink ones that you see that the little girls have from the 50s. Oh. Some of them were big and had big speakers, and we had one of them. I played drums and DJ'd. And we charged 10 cents to get in, and we made money.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I put the record on,
right,
and then I would play with the record. And the early clubs in New York started that way. I don't know if you know that.
No.
The early discotheques in New York had a live drummer.
Oh.
Who was mic'd.
Okay.
Playing along with the records. They did that probably, I'm going to say 71, 72, 73. This is all pre-Saturday Night Fever. When Saturday Night Fever broke, there was a kind of standard and everybody followed that. We played the hits. But before that, there was a lot of invention.
It was a lot, like any other type of new music per se. It was experimental, so you're not going to have a formula from the beginning.
Nobody knew what we were doing. I'm the first club DJ in the United States, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Vassar College called me, wanted me to do a discotheque party, and I said I'd be happy to do it. I was on the radio in Poughkeepsie. That's why they called me. Tell me what it is, and I'll do it. And she talked to me like I was a child in monosyllables. She said, well, a discotheque is a club where they play records. And as far as we know, that was the first discotheque party. That was 1964, and a year later I built a club around the idea, but we didn't know what we were doing.
Right. Yeah. And then you
fun.
Worked with some talent agencies for a while. You had, I saw Paramount's Artist Corporation and Action Talents Agency.
Paramount was in Washington, D.C. I was there for 2 years, 66 and 67. It started out, I was just booking bands, but I had a lot of contacts with recording artists, the Shangri-Las, and particularly the Shangri-Las, Len Barry, Dee Dee Sharp, all the Philly people from my days in radio. And they weren't getting booked. They were calling me. And I'm like, but you're signed to William Morris. They don't book me. So I stole them, and all of a sudden, by the end of my first 6 months, we had all these recording artists in Washington. So I did it for a couple of years down there, and they recruited me to come to New York when they started Action Talents, which was owned by a big record company called Buddha. And that was a fun year. I mean, it was 1960. It was a wild year anyhow.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And when we landed, I had the #1 record in the country, a record called Green Tambourine by the Lemon Pipers. So we started at the top.
Yeah.
I did that for about a year, and then I moved to Philly and made disco records with Len Barry. And
I got that on here, too.
And then I went back into, you read my Wikipedia page.
Yes, I did. He has his own Wikipedia page, and everybody keeps saying you should always make your own Wikipedia page, but he really needed one for this, for sure.
Yeah, I had a gal named Elizabeth DuPont from Australia handling some of my television stuff a few years ago, and she put that up.
Ah, that's excellent.
She said, you need a Wikipedia page. I said, fine. And I woke up in the morning and she said, go to your Wikipedia page, and it was there.
That's excellent.
Yeah,
well, yeah, I saw that you actually got a gold record for Jim Burgess's 12-inch remix of Alicia Bridges' I Love the Nightlife.
It's such a nice story. I'll tell it real quick.
Yes.
I came to Atlanta, and I was just passing through. I was in Miami, and I stopped to visit a couple of girls I knew. And we used to go, we just went to these clubs. And late night, a place called the Casbar on Peachtree Street across from Turtles. Didn't even open until midnight. And Burgess was the DJ. And I had just come off a big recording session in New York with a group called ISIS. So I go to the booth, and I'm talking to him about remixing and how we do this and whatever. And we spent 2 or 3 hours getting to know each other and whatever. Skip ahead a year. I didn't see him in the interim. And Polydor Records was in the club where I was headlining, Gerald's, which was the big mainstream disco in this town during the era. And Polydor was whining that their record wasn't a hit, I Love the Nightlife. I said, look, it's called I Love the Nightlife and parenthetically Disco Round. It's a disco record.
Yeah. Radio
isn't playing it because they don't play disco records that aren't hits in clubs, and clubs only play 12 inches and you only have a 45. So they said, well, what do we do? And I reached in my wallet.
All right, real quick, for the young ones, explain the difference between a 12-inch and a 45.
Okay. A 45 is everybody knows what a 45 looks like. It's a small record.
The record.
And they learned early on in disco, 72, 73, that if you take the same songs and spread them over something that is the size of an album, just one song on the album, the quality of the recording improves a lot. It has to do with the grooves. I'm not sure technically, but so they started making these 12-inch records and remixing them so that the drums and the bass and the parts of the record that you dance to are louder.
Yes.
And sometimes they would insert breaks you could mix in or mix out of.
Yes.
And they didn't have that on Nightlife. So I reached in my wallet and I pulled out Jim Burgess's number, which was still there from the night I met him.
Yeah.
And I said, this is a guy that knows what he's doing. Get him to remix your record. So they did. And it was funny. The next week, somebody brought me a record, and wow, okay, they did it. And so now I had something invested in this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I had some skin in the game. So I run down, I buy a billboard, I open it up. It's not there. It's not on the chart. I can't figure it out. So the next week, the record is 60, no bullet, just laying there on a Hot 100, no bullet. Second week, 60, no bullet. I'm like, I'm never wrong about this. I can't understand this. So the next week I decide I'll look at the dance chart first. Maybe it's on the dance chart. So I open it up to the dance chart and I look number 40, nothing. I can't figure it out. All of a sudden I look at the top of the dance chart. Number 1. Hit at 1. Wow. So I look at Billboard. I open up Billboard. 60 to 4. Bullet.
Nice. Yeah, that's
and
the
then
bullet
and then when the
kind of thing
Grammys came on, all you saw was the stage and a spotlight came on and somebody said, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Alicia Bridges, and she opened the Grammys. It was killer. I loved it. She's a nice gal.
See, that's somebody I would love to meet.
I like Alicia.
By and
she's up
far.
North Carolina now.
Ooh, see, she's not terribly far from us. Yeah, here speaking.
She was a DJ. Did you know that?
No.
She worked.
Oh God, I love it. An early girl DJ.
Yeah. No, really.
Say, I mean, there weren't terribly many when I got into the business 15 years ago. Not mainstream.
What was the club that the guy blew up during the Olympics? The gay bar. She worked there. No, the other something, and she worked a number of gay women's bars here in town, and she was a headliner for years. In fact, I never met her when the record was hit.
Wow.
I met her in a record store.
I will be doing more research on that.
True story.
Well, you also were the headline DJ at Johnny's Hideaway for about 10 years. Now, that's another club that if you're in Atlanta, you know, or you've at least heard of Johnny's Hideaway. Even if you've never stepped foot in there, somebody you know knows this place.
I've been there since 1979. Johnny started it in 79, and for the first 5 or 6 years, they played just big band music on cassette tapes out of the service bar. There was no booth, no DJ, nothing.
Yes.
And it worked.
Yes.
And then it started to fade. Johnny sold it for a lot of money, and he went out and blew the money on drugs, he says. And I don't know what he did. But
pitfalls of the club industry.
He blew a lot of money, whatever it was to say. Ain't no hope with that dope.
Yeah.
He blew a lot of money. And then they hired me to come in on Sunday nights to do an oldie show. And we were the only good night they had. We had a standing line. Mm-hmm. So the owner, Mike Dana, called me up. And he said, look, I want you to come in here. I'm going to build you a booth. I want you to come in here 5 nights a week, fix this music. and I'm going to hire Johnny back to promote it.
Yeah.
So Johnny and I worked together for about 10, 12 years. He was the most bipolar guy in the world. He'd go off on you like that. And we had many fights over music, but I'll fight you. I mean, I was right about this one or that one or whatever.
Right.
We were the first club in the United States to play Vogue.
Oh, wow.
I had a test pressing.
And she's talking Madonna's Vogue.
Yeah.
If somebody's sitting there going, what?
Somebody I knew Shep Pettibone, who's a friend of mine now.
Yeah.
And Shep wrote it and produced it. And Shep sent a test pressing to her, and she sent it to me, and so I had it. You know, Johnny's always played a fair amount of new music, more than they do now.
Oh.
You know what day parting means? Day parting in radio means you play different music at different times of the day, aiming at a specific demographic.
Right.
And we would day part the club. We'd start from 8 to 10 with big bands. From 10 to maybe 11, I was playing 50s and 60s. Then I moved it into 70s, 80s, and currents.
Like that, yeah.
And the music got newer as the night got later.
Yes.
They don't do it now. They do it differently now. But for the time that Johnny and I were there, all the DJs talked. The great Marty Walker was there on Wednesday night with his rock and roll show, and that was a hell of a club. It was.
Well,
big time.
let's take a look at some photo highlights from your career.
Oh, boy. What have you got
You
here?
took some great pictures, by the way. So there you go, guys. Everything from the the gold
Good
record. I know. He was just like, woo, flashbacks.
I feel a little bit like the movie actors must feel when they see movies they made when they were 18 and now they're 70. I'm looking at stuff I did there 50 years ago.
Yeah, I get to do that in 20, 30, 40 years, give or take.
Right.
Okay, so just real quick, we're going to touch on this. We got the 1998, the resurgence of swing dancing.
That was so much fun, and it was an accident, but I had seen this.
Blame it on the Gap commercials.
I had seen this coming. My wife at the time and I went to see the movie Swing Kids. Mm-hmm. And we came out of the movie, that was like 91.
Yeah.
And we came out of the movie, and she said, "You think kids are going to come back and learn all those dances?" I said, "Yeah, I think so."
I think so.
And she said, "Well, you're 1,000 years old. How would you get in front of them anyhow?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I'll figure something out."
Wives can be pretty brutal.
I was working at a club out in Cobb County called Flamingo Joe's, which was going down the tubes because of the DUIs. The cops would park in the parking lot. You're headed out when they do that, right? And I got a call from a guy. He said, "We want to go into Center Stage building. We're opening a club called Oscars and yada yada." Did he offer me a gig? And I'm like, I feel like I should stay here and help this woman out. What kind of music did you have in mind? Well, he said, "We want to go after these swing kids." I said, "I'll take it."
Let's try it.
And so I went down there, and the first night we had 2 or 3 swing kids kind of just stick their head in. The second night we had a standing line, and we had a standing line after that. For the first couple of years, really, I was the only DJ because I was the only one that understood the music, the big bands and the 50s rock and roll and whatever.
Right.
And then we were to Swing Kids for 10 years probably. And I'm looking for a venue now. I'm going to compete with you on Wednesdays. I'm going to do a Wednesday night thing with the Swing Kids.
I'm not doing anything on Wednesdays anymore. Oh, I am.
You are.
I'm sorry.
I just heard you say it.
I'm so used to not doing things on Wednesdays.
I was going to go there, and now I thought you canceled
5 or 6. Yes. No. I never mind. I am back. All right. So we got to go ahead and wrap up, but I do want to talk about these last couple things. In 2005, you were inducted into the Swing DJs Hall of Fame. And where is that?
That's just crazy. You get old and they put you in the Hall of Fame. I got a Lifetime Achievement Award from the International Disco Association, and I don't even know what that is.
You're alive and you do great things.
I'm in a couple of Swing Hall of Fames.
Excellent.
They're Swing DJ Hall of Fames. They're online.
Okay.
The All Swing DJs and the Global Swing DJs.
So it's
well, they're both West Coast oriented rather than Swing Kids.
Right.
There's 2 kinds of, there's a lot of kinds of swing, but West Coast swing is a blues thing, and the Swing Kids is jazz and Lindy, and it's a much faster thing, and it's a whole different dance, actually.
It's quite hilarious how you can have the East Coast swing and the West Coast swing, and it's just, You know, you could have a good kind of.
There's jitterbugs and balboas and blues dancing, but there was always that. I mean, you know, that was always true.
Well, you currently run Modern Jive. It's a dance promotion company called Jive Bop and related internet radio station, JiveBopRadio.com.
I have two radio stations. One was on the Swing Kids.
Okay.
That's SwingTop40Radio.com. That's archived. You just click on it and it'll play. We did 108 weekly top 40 Casey Kasem-like countdown shows. I'm proud of that.
Yes.
And they sent us swing music from all over the world.
Yes.
That station, then I'll give it again, www, whatever you say, SwingTop40Radio.com. That is...
We'll have a link for that.
We are literally the home of neo swing.
Huh,
That's where you go. We're the definitive record of neo swing. The other one's called JiveBopRadio.com. And that's about modern jive, which is partner dancing. Look it up on Wikipedia. It is huge in England. They say that there's a modern jive dance on every corner. Under the big name is Ciroc, but there's others. There's Mirror Ball and Jive Daddy. I'm the Jive Daddy. They stole my name. And a couple of others. But, you know, I found disco in Europe. The Beatles worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
Dancing with the Stars came from England.
Yes,
American Idol came from England.
True.
I wouldn't be surprised if partner dancing comes back fairly soon. Look for maybe
you can only twerk so much.
Maybe
and it does get
Beatles Elvis.
Really weird after you start hitting like the 20-year reunions. I'm sure the future generations.
I just did the 20-year reunion of the Swing Kids, and I was old when we did that. Not even old. I'll be 76.
See, that's what it's.
Ringo's a year older, folks. I'm not the oldest one out there. Ringo's a year older, and he's working hard too.
Well, I'm going to have to say thank you so much for coming on, Alan.
Hey,
we could talk forever.
It's so good to see you. The first night I met you, I told you would be on radio and television. I knew right away, and look at you, and you're doing great.
Voila! I have made it.
And thank you for having me. It was fun.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, join me next month for another dash of the Audioprism Show and some new news coming up next month, and I'll share it with you next month about developments for this fall for my YouTube channel and more. You guys have a wonderful and safe every day, every week, every month, everything that you can do, and I will see you guys next month. Take care.
Stay lucky.